Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Kaga. So, it's War Thunder Wednesday yet again. And yes, it is hump day. And oh my, holy red, white, and blue. But anyway, as you can see, we are taking to the skies in War Thunder once again. And you know what? There's a couple of reasons for this. One, it's just kind of like mixing it up on the channel. Get some air RB, some ground RB, just kind of never know what we're going to play in War Thunder that week. But I kind of had this grand match a while back, and lo and behold, when it came time to record that for today's video, War Thunder decided to patch itself, thus breaking the replay. I think I need to just get in that habit of recording these good games pretty much right after I'm done with them, because this whole song and dance of, oh yeah, that was a great replay, I've got everything I need to make a video out of it, and then suddenly winding up with, oh, nuts, I don't have it. Okay, I need to log back in and go ahead and take care of business, get some good RB footage, and get that up to the channel. So this was one of those matches, and I was sitting there looking at War Thunder, and admittedly, I was planning to do something from ground RB this week, but when I was looking at War Thunder, that great temptation of air realistic battles just said, click me, click me, click me. So I clicked it, and I happen to be queued up for this wonderful aircraft. This is the Ki-84 Otsu, and otherwise known as the Hayate. This is the all 20mm flavor of it, so it has 4 20mm cannons, unlike the Ki-84 Ko, which precedes it, which has the two 12.7mm and two 20mm, and it's dissimilar from the aircraft which succeeds it, the Ki-84 Hei, which has two 20mm and two 30mm. You know, it doesn't really matter which of these aircraft you look at. Within their spread of BR, they do fairly well. The only real exception to this is when you get slapped in the face by the old gods, and your Ki-84 Ko is facing off against, F-80s, because, reasons. We love that. But that being said, it's not terrible in this regard, that type of mismatch. I know you're looking at 4.7 versus, 6.7? It's not insurmountable in the Hayates. And that's one of the things that makes them so good, is that they can rise to the occasion. They have certain envelopes of space that they really like to operate in, but all aircraft do. So we won't worry too much about that. So now on with the show. We've spent a fair bit of time doing this air realistic battle. It's that typical thing you spend like the first 5 to 8 minutes doing in any given RB, is climbing. Because we like to have choice when we're playing realistic battles, because at least in air RB, what you have the issue is that you have one plane. You have one plane per round, that's it. No ifs, ands, or buts, no respawns like in tank RB. You have one plane. One plane to affect the entire match, one plane to do everything you're ever going to do, and one plane to bring home the experience and Silver Lion bacon. So we tend to be a little more careful with that. And you look at this, and Suppose you're probably sitting there looking and following my camera here as I pan around trying to make certain I'm not going to get dived on by some super sneaky Russian monstrosity with those 37mm auto cannons in the nose. Because, that's just something they do. And you're going to notice that for the most part, somehow, the Japanese aircraft control higher airspace than the Soviet aircraft. And you know what? I like it. I like it a lot. Because the match before this one, I had F-84s soaring over my Otsu. I had Horton 229s diving on me from the stratosphere. Yeah, not fun. Because you know what? It usually ends one way. One way. It's a one-way ticket because it's really just one of those really nasty 30mm, at least from the Horton, or just one quick stealth burst from the F-84 and, well, you're done. And you know what? I was feeling like trying to vestige that on a few people this match because, there's nothing in Rage Thunder quite like, doing that to some other player because, you've been a victim of it yourself. And one of the things that really maximizes our chances of doing that is asking ourselves the question, what do we stand to gain by taking that risk? Because we do only have one plane. We have to be careful with it. We have to shepherd it a little bit more than we might otherwise do. Pretty much the only game mode that you don't have to weigh that. Actually, no. Let me rephrase that. It's 1:30 in the morning, and you know what? I need to rephrase that. The only game modes that you have to make this careful distinction are like air realistic battles, your first spawn in Tank RB, and a few of the simulator events follow the same rules. I think they're actually stricter than most of the other RBs, other than the air RB. And bad yak. Back away. And clouds are magical. Clouds are magic. And I'm saying that because somehow I still have my tail. As you can very clearly see where part of it, that yak's bullets did impact both my fuselage and my tail. So I'm extremely thankful that I still have them. Anyway. And, because we are fairly careful, it's one of those things of, alright, you have to sit down and think. What is the enemy going to do? What are his allies going to do? Who is in the best position to get the shot? And can I sneak a shot in? Or is it too risky? And of course, because this is realistic battle, you have to mind one other quantity. How close you are to runway anti-aircraft barrages, because I swear the anti-aircraft around the airfields in realistic battles is closer to laser-guided missiles than your typical depiction of AA during World War II. Oh yes, of course. One of the other things that kind of ties into being able to think about your opponents and your allies is when you need to maneuver and when you need to get out of dodge. And that's not just throwing on the WEP and forcing the airframe into a dive or forward or making those annoying rolls. but this is also to do with when you engage, where you engage, and more importantly, when and how you disengage. As you can see, and I know that this is one of the things that kind of annoys me about War Thunder replays, is that they don't highlight the person that is my wingmate, and you saw my wingmate actually just pass by just for a moment there on my upper right hand side there, and kind of get a glimpse of him right there in the J2M3. Is that we recognized the danger of the airfield defenses in combination with an enemy Yak 9 and said, no thank you, no thank you, not worth it. And we're looking for altitude and keeping an eye on that Yak 9, because you know what, I know how things go. When I relax, even for a fraction of a second, that Yak 9 will disappear from where he is, and quite like the Romulan birds of prey, suddenly appear right behind me with his cloaking engines still armed, blasting me with photon torpedoes, and I'm gone. Yes, it happens. Oh, maybe with a little less sci-fi action, a little more 37mm bits of stellinium. So keeping that in mind, I am doing two things. One, I am climbing altitude. This does a number of things. One, it gives me choice. Two, if the Yak 9 wants to engage me, he's going to have to gain altitude. He's going to be lower and slower than me, and that gives me a lot more tactical flexibility, and I'm going to need all that I can get with the holes that you can very clearly pass a volleyball through my fuselage from one side to the other. I'm going to need all the help I can get. And two, right now, while I'm gaining altitude and putting distance, I am scanning for the approximate location of that enemy Yak 9. And as you can see, I wasn't too far off, because there he is. And at this point, I'm going to say this. We were not certain if he was decelerating to come in for a landing or not, or if he was just flying around in circles trying to lure us into the enemy AA. And now, I'd like to clarify what you're about to see me do, because this was what I was thinking. You see the position of my wingmate over there in the J2M3. You see my position. When I was sitting there going through and studying this, I kind of figured that the J2M3 was going to be holding aggro on those anti-aircraft batteries. So I threw down the old elevator controls, came in for a shallow dive, and we're going to go ahead, see if we can get this Yak 9 before he hits the ground. The AA starts pointing high explosive shells closer to my vehicle than I'd like. The Yak 9 rolls off. I can't, and oopsie, bad flak, my engine's smoking. That's never a good thing. Now, I didn't know this at the time, and you won't see it in the replay, but that particular shot, or the next one coming up here, is going to seriously hurt my engine's ability to cool, particularly the oil, which is bad. Very bad, because when your oil goes too high, a few things could happen. One, your engine could just burst into flames right then and there, and there's nothing you can do with a dead engine that's also on fire. Another thing is it could just outright seize up. So all you hear is putter, 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 putter. You see your propellers just slow down. And then you hear quiet. And the sound of silence in an aircraft is very bad when you don't command it to happen. So one of those things that really it helps you to just do better in these scenarios, is learning how to nurse your aircraft back to base to land. And while you're doing this, remember, you see that giant puff of black smoke? Well, you're not the only one who can see it. So you need to be keeping an eye out for where the enemy is likely to come from. In this case, I don't have to spend too much time looking around because I can see the only remaining enemy left on the battlefield in the form of that Yak-9. And now I know that you could say, well, just go ahead, climb altitude, pound him on the runway if he is indeed landing. Well, yes and no. Yes and no. And allow me to qualify that. One, yes, I could. I could do that. And I could get away with it. But also, if I don't get away with it, and it's very likely that I won't with a damaged engine, you can look at the holes in my airframe. I highly suspect that the rearward controls in the tail and the elevator are a little more sluggish than they should be, meaning I don't have the maneuverability to thread the AA field as much as I would need to make that kind of maneuver. And two, if I miscalculate it, well, you know what? All I'm doing is making myself a much easier target for the Yak-9 to rise up and engage, because with a damaged engine, I'm not going to be able to climb out. So both my wingmate and myself have decided that it's better to return to base to repair and rearm. And this is just one of those, we are looking out for each other, because by keeping both of our guns in the fight rather than just going in one by one after this Yak-9 on the airfield, we maximize the chances that we can catch him unable to counter the other's guns. Or not really counter, but to negate the effect of, or to render unable to hit through good defensive flying. So for me, right now, priority number one is, and I know you can't see this in the replay, is watching my oil temperature, watching my engine temperature, and throttling back when I need to, keep that temperature down below the critical level, because when it gets above that critical level, it starts damaging my engine and increasing the chance it will seize up and that I will not be able to make it back to the airfield. Now, you have to be careful you don't throttle back too much, because then you'll just basically glide out of the sky before you want to. And of course, there's one other thing you have to be careful of, is you want to control your airspeed in this particular situation, because you're probably not going to get a second chance at landing. So you want to make your final approach very long, and as you can see, I am braving the enemy's automated air defenses near the front lines for the ground forces that we were supposed to pound according to the mission, rather than hunting the enemy to the last plane. And I'm coming under fire. Some of it's actually getting really close, but I don't have a choice. I really need to stick to this glide slope. And as you can see looking back, it's a very long trail, it's a very evident trail, and it's very shallow. I'm doing this because the Ki-84s love picking up speed in dives. It's one of their better saving graces when it comes to dogfighting, because it can be used to get out of trouble as fast as you found your way into it. But right now, I need to control it. So with a mixture of flaring, lowering the engine during the flare, coming back down to set up a slightly better vector for final approach. And yes, it is a very long final approach. That's about 3.5 kilometers at this point. but we don't really have a choice. And now I see that I do have enough altitude to make it. So what I do, just throw it down just a little bit more. And I see my ally landing on what is approximately runway 18 left. So I will take runway 18 right. Because landing two birds right next to each other on the runway is a great recipe for a ground strike. So let's not do that. So, and I'm gonna realize this right now, is that I actually managed to touch this down without seeing my landing gear at all. I'm actually somewhat impressed with that, because usually it really does help. One of the harder aspects of actually flying planes is knowing where your struts are relative to the cockpit. And that's actually a very good way to end up with your plane smashing into the ground or porpoising. So now you're going to sit back. We will be repairing for a bit, but I want to talk about why my wingmate hasn't taken off yet. And it's not 100% immediate until you think about it this way. While one of us is on the ground, our best chances are to stick together. If he were to go off, climb, without me being anywhere near ready, what it could happen is that the Yak 9 puts an end to him before I'm able to get off the ground. And then it makes it into a one-on-one rather than this two-on-one that we've been trying to maintain for the last couple of minutes. And now that our plane has been serviced and repaired, let's go ahead, get this thing up to speed, and try to gain as much altitude. That Yak 9 must be inbound. He has got to be coming in. He knows that we were hurt bad, in particular my aircraft, so he's probably trying to come in and finish me off, at least in his mind, before he is found by the J2M3, that is my wingman. It's a very sound strategy. Go for the weaker opponent and go ahead, put them out of their misery, and just reduce the number of guns that can potentially hurt you. It's a very sound strategy. But right now, it's that predictability that will be his undoing. And I say that because there is about a 1.25 kilometer distance between us right now, which means that it doesn't matter which of us the Yak 9 attacks first, unless he gets that critical one-hit snipe hit kill on either of us. There's a very good probability that he is going to get pounced on by the other member of the flight, and at the same instance he's going to be forced into the situation where there might be 2 aircraft on his 6 rather than just 1. And now I sit back and go, holy crap, Yak 9, 6 o'clock high. Let me try to do a little bit of this S-turn bit here. I waver a bit. I really do waver a bit, trying to figure out what action the Yak 9 is going to take. And it looks like he still hasn't quite spotted both of us. I'm pretty certain he spotted one of us. So I'm going to turn in, try to cover the J2M3. Come in here. In a sense, we're going to try to do, I guess it amounts to something like analogous to like an ascending rolling scissors, where we do this back and forth here, trying to set up the kills, or the kill rather, against this enemy Yak 9. And as you can see, I don't have enough speed to force the controls to do exactly what I want in that instance, but that's because of doing the ascending bit. I give up a lot of positive control to coast in through that, just as a nature of the way the air is flowing over the wing, and I really should not be doing this particular maneuver. I should have just turned straight down And nope. And not a good idea. Can you guess what is going to happen next? Can you guess? Okay, there's that Yak 9. Okay, what's going to happen? Let's not really level off, but let's get back to that 15 degrees, good climbing path here. Kind of see what the J2M3 has in mind, and he's a much better climber than me. So he's going to rise up and take on that Yak 9, try to make him change course. The Yak 9 turns straight into me. I turn to minimize the amount of time he has to get shells on the target. He makes one connect with my tail area section, and if I hadn't dodged that shot probably would have sheared my rudder clean off rather than just scrape my elevator, which is kind of nice. And it looks like, yep, that's it for the match. And our J2M3 finishes off that Yak and have a very nice, it's not great, but it's still a nice way to end a air realistic battle, because it's always nice not getting shot down. It really is. I would try it sometime. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. It's a bit of a long one, I know, but realistic battles in War Thunder, they're either incredibly short or they just go on and on and on. But that's not really a huge issue with ARB, because you spend a lot of time going from place to place to place, and you spend your time, at least when you're playing it anyway, you spend a lot of this time in the head game there, in a contest of wills for who has the better position. And in that respect, playing it becomes a lot of fun once you've gone through some basics of how not to go through and tear your wings off, how to not go through powered dives straight into the ground, how that, oh yes, you have limited ammunition and that you must rearm at the airfields, and that, you know, the general arcade physics just don't apply anymore. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please consider giving it a like down below. If you're new to the channel, I'd like to see you around a little bit more in the future. If you're interested in that, please do think about hitting the old subscribe button down below. And of course, if you're interested in a particular aircraft that I have shown or not shown, just go ahead, leave me a comment in the comments box down below. I'll see if I have it, or if I don't, I will work towards it to showcase it. Or alternatively, you can go ahead and send in a replay with said aircraft in there. We do love a good RB segment on this channel. Anyway, thank you. I hope you have a happy hump day. So, thank you for having bared with me for the better part of 28 minutes at this point. Thank you, and I'd like to bid you a good day